I want to be loved. I want to be understood. And I don't mean that in a simple way. Not the kind of something will come along and it'll all click kind of way. Love really isn't that simple. I want something more real. I want to feel the complicated version of love that people don't usually say out loud because it doesn't sound pretty. Love isn't something easy. It's much deeper than that. It's showing someone who you really are and hoping they don't step back when they see it fully. It's letting yourself care about someone in a way that actually changes your day, mood, your thoughts, and that living with the fact that they might not feel it the same way. People don't really talk about that part. They talk about love like it's soft and warm and healing, because sometimes it is. But they don't always talk about being vulnerable and having to open up about yourself to people, putting your walls down and letting someone in. They don't talk about heartbreak as something that starts quietly. It's not loud. It's not always a big ending. Sometimes it's just less replies, less effort, less presence, and you try not to notice it at all. First you tell yourself it's fine and people are busy. You tell yourself not to think too much, but you feel it anyways. And that's the part that hurts the most, because you don't just lose someone all at once. Sometimes you lose them slowly while they're still technically there. And rejection isn't always direct either. Sometimes it's not being chosen. Sometimes it's feeling like you care a little more than they do. Sometimes it's realizing that you're the one reaching out first. Most of the time, and pretending that doesn't mean anything. And being left doesn't always come with a clear goodbye. Sometimes it's just distance that grows without explanation, and you're sitting there trying to make sense of something that never gave you answers in the first place. And forgotten. That one is hard to explain, because it doesn't always feel like someone's intentionally forgetting you. Sometimes it feels like you stopped being part of their daily thoughts, like you faded into a place where life doesn't reach anymore. And you're still there, still remembering, still holding on to something that might have already moved past. And I think that's why love hurts so much sometimes. Not because it exists, but because it asks you to care without guarantees, to open up without knowing what you'll get back, to be real with someone while accepting you can't control whether they'll stay. But even with all that, people still want it, because under the fear of being hurt is something stronger. The need to be seen, to be chosen, to be understood without having to change yourself or translate yourself into something or someone easier digested. To not feel like you're too much, just for feeling deeply. And maybe that's what love really is at its core. Not being perfect, not knowing anything for certain, but wanting or willing to be vulnerable. And anyways, even knowing it can break you, it really hurts. But still choosing to open your heart anyways, even when you remember how fragile it is. Even when you know how it feels to be left. Even when you know what it feels like to be replaced without anyone saying it directly. Even when you know how quiet it gets when someone stops reaching for you, reaching out the same way. Because love doesn't erase those experiences. It just makes you aware that they exist. And you risk them anyways. Loving someone isn't just about the good moments where everything is easy and nice. It's about what you do with yourself when it's not. It's being vulnerable, overthinking, waiting, reaching, trying to act normal. When you're hoping they'll notice you the same way you notice them. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes they care, but not in the way you need. Sometimes they're kind, but inconsistent. Sometimes they leave without meaning to hurt you, but it still hurts anyways. And when you're left with all that feelings and nowhere for it to go. But even then, people don't stop wanting love and yearning. Because love isn't just what happens when everything is going right. It's what you learn about yourself when it goes wrong too. Just how deeply you can feel, how much space someone can take up in your thoughts without asking, how quickly someone can become part of your world without even realizing it. And love is risky, and it's painful sometimes, and it's something you can't control. But that's what makes love real, because you can't fake the kind of attachment you get. You can't pretend that you're caring as much as you do. So even after everything, after it all, you still find yourself hoping, wanting, yearning, quietly, hoping for someone who stays consistent without making you feel like you're asking too much, begging, hoping for someone who doesn't make you question who you are and what you're doing, hoping that you feel safe enough to stop overthinking everything you do and say, and that even after being hurt dozens of times, people never stop yearning. People will always keep trying. I will always keep trying.